There are moments in life that change you forever, moments that divide your existence into a before and an after. For me, that moment arrived in a cold hospital hallway, under flickering fluorescent lights, as nurses rushed past without looking at me. That night at the hospital, I understood that the most painful words are not the ones that are shouted, they are the ones whispered coldly in front of strangers who look away uncomfortably, pretending not to have heard anything. "Mum, my wife only wants family here." My son's voice sounded distant, as if coming from very far away, even though he was standing only 3 feet away. I searched his eyes, those eyes I had seen open for the first time 32 years ago. Those eyes that looked at me with adoration when he was a child, those eyes that now avoided mine as if he were ashamed to see me. And then, as I searched for any sign of remorse, any glimpse of the son I knew, Robert completed the sentence that would break me in two. "Don't push it. She has never liked you." The world stopped. The hospital voices became a distant murmur. People's footsteps turned into echoes. And I stood there, rooted in that hallway, feeling something inside me shatter without making a sound. 12 hours on the road. 12 hours sitting on an old bus that smelled of diesel and stale food. 12 hours looking out the foggy window, watching towns, mountains, endless highways pass by, all while imagining that moment, the moment I would meet my grandson. I had planned every detail in my mind throughout the trip. I imagined what it would be like to hold him for the first time, how his little head would smell, how his soft skin would feel against my cheek. I imagined Robert's eyes shining with excitement as he introduced me to his son. I imagined Valerie, tired but happy, letting me help her. I imagined so many things, but I never imagined this. I never imagined my own son would look at me as if I were an intruder, as if I were a problem to solve, as if my presence, after 12 hours of travel, after a lifetime of sacrifices, were a nuisance. The first cry of my grandson that I heard came from behind a closed door, a small, fragile, beautiful cry, and I was on the other side, like a stranger who is not allowed to enter. I thought of all the times Robert cried as a baby, how I rocked him for hours in the middle of the night, walking barefoot across the cold house, singing him made-up songs, promising him everything would be all right. How his father slept soundly while I held our son against my chest, feeling his cries turn into sighs, and his sighs into sleep. I thought of the nights of fever, the runs to the emergency room, the fears that only a mother knows. And now that same son, that man I had held when the world scared him, was telling me I was not welcome at the most important moment of his life. My name is Joan Baker. I am 61 years old. I was born in San Antonio, Texas, in a house with a big backyard and oak trees. I grew up helping my mother in the kitchen, learning to make biscuits from scratch, listening to her advice about life and love. I married young at the age of 22 to a good, hard-working man, a man of few words, but a strong heart. We had Robert when I was 25, and from that day on, my entire life revolved around that boy. When my husband died, Robert was 15. A sudden heart attack on a random Tuesday. He left without saying goodbye, like someone quietly closing a door. And there we were, Robert and I, trying to figure out how to move forward without him. I sold the business. I worked wherever I could. I cleaned dental offices in the pre-dawn hours, my hands smelling of bleach and disinfectant. I worked reception in the afternoons. I would come home with swollen feet and an aching back, but always with a smile for my son, because he was my reason for being, my motivation, my everything. And now, that everything was looking at me with eyes I did not recognize, I remained silent in that hallway. Not because I lacked words. I had thousands. I wanted to yell at him that I had traveled 12 hours. I wanted to remind him of everything I had done for him. I wanted to ask him when he had become this man who treated me like a bother. But I didn't say anything, because my mother taught me that there are moments when silence carries more dignity than any words. I nodded slowly. I swallowed hard. I felt the tears burn behind my eyes, but I didn't let them out. I wasn't going to give anyone that satisfaction. I picked up my worn leather purse, that dark brown purse my mother gave me when I turned 30, so you can carry it during all the important moments of your life, she told me. And I certainly had. That purse was with me when Robert was born, when he graduated from college, when he moved to New York City, and now it was with me during this humiliation. I turned on my heel. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't say congratulations. I didn't say anything. I just walked, one foot in front of the other, down that endless hallway of St. Anne's Hospital. The fluorescent lights flickered over my head. The smell of disinfectant made me dizzy. I heard distant voices, laughter from other families celebrating births, babies crying, announcements over the loudspeaker. I walked past other grandmothers holding their newborns. I saw them smile, cry with happiness, take pictures. I saw them being part of something beautiful, and I just kept walking. I left the hospital at 9 o'clock at night. The cold air of February in New York City hit my face. I stood there on the sidewalk, watching the cabs pass, watching people go in and out of the hospital, watching life follow its normal course while mine was falling apart. I didn't know where to go. My return bus wasn't until the following afternoon. I had planned to stay several days, to help with the baby, to cook for Robert and Valerie, to be useful. But there was nothing left for me to do there. I took a taxi to a cheap motel I found online, a small room with thin walls and a squeaky bed. I could hear laughter from the hallway, televisions blasting, couples arguing. I sat on the edge of that strange bed and finally let the tears out. I cried like I hadn't cried since my husband died. I cried for all the broken expectations, for all the destroyed hopes, for that grandson who had just been born and whom they wouldn't let me meet. But most of all, I cried for my son, for the boy who hugged me tight and told me, "I love you, Mummy," before going to sleep, for the teenager who cried in my arms when his father died, for the young man who promised me he would always be there for me. Where had that son gone? At what point had he become this man who saw me as a nuisance? I barely slept that night. I stayed awake, staring at the stained ceiling of that cheap motel, listening to the sounds of the city that never sleeps, thinking about everything that had gone wrong. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I got up. I took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away some of the pain. I got ready carefully. I put on the navy blue dress I had brought especially for this occasion. I put on makeup even though no one would see me, because I wasn't going to let anyone see me defeated. I went down for breakfast in the small motel dining room, watery coffee and hard sweet rolls. But it didn't matter. I wasn't hungry anyway. I spent the day wandering through the city, with no fixed destination, just walking, looking at storefronts, sitting on park benches, watching families pass by. Mothers with their children, grandmothers with their grandsons, whole families, happy, together. And I was completely alone. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I went to the bus terminal. I sat on a plastic bench to wait for my bus. Other people were waiting too. An elderly woman was reading a magazine. A young man was listening to music with headphones. A family was eating takeout sandwiches and soda. Everyone had somewhere to go. Everyone had someone waiting for them, and I only had an empty house in San Antonio. The bus left at 6. Another 12 hours of travel, but this time I wasn't looking out the window imagining happy moments. This time I only saw my reflection in the dark glass. A 61-year-old woman, tired, sad, alone. I wondered if Robert would even notice that I had left. If he would care. If he would ever think I should have treated my mother better. But something told me no. Something told me that at this moment he was completely happy with his new family, with his wife, with his son, and I was just an uncomfortable thought he preferred to forget. I arrived in San Antonio at 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun was just beginning to rise. The streets were empty. I took a taxi to my house. When I opened the door, everything was exactly as I had left it. The coffee cup I hadn't washed before leaving, the newspaper from the day before, the silence, that silence that used to be peace and was now loneliness. I left my suitcase on the floor. I hung my leather purse on the hook by the door. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat down at my kitchen table. The same table where Robert and I used to have breakfast together when he was a child. The same table where he did his homework while I prepared dinner. The same table where, now, I was completely alone. And it was there, sitting in that familiar kitchen, drinking coffee that tasted bitter, when my phone rang. It was an unknown number, New York City. For a second, my heart leaped. It's Robert, I thought. He regretted it. He's going to apologize. I answered with a trembling voice. Hello, Mrs. Joan Baker. It was not my son's voice. Yes, that's me. Good afternoon, ma'am. We are calling from St. Anne's Hospital, Billing and Collections Department. My blood ran cold. Yes, we have an outstanding balance on your daughter-in-law's delivery account, Mrs. Valerie Torres Baker. The health insurance covered most of it, but there is a remaining balance of $10,000 for the type of room they requested and some special medications not covered by their policy. $10,000. Your son, Mr. Robert Baker, provided us with your number as an emergency contact for payment issues. Emergency contact. For payment issues. Not to meet my grandson, not to be present, to pay. Ma'am, are you listening to me? I felt the coffee getting cold in my hand. How my heart was beating slowly, very slowly. And in that moment, I understood everything. Robert hadn't given the hospital my number because he wanted me to be close. He had given it because he needed my money. He needed me, the intrusive mother, the unwelcome grandmother, to pay his bills. Mrs. Baker, can you make the deposit this week? Otherwise, we will have to submit the account to legal action, which may affect your son's credit history. I took a deep breath, a very deep breath. I thought of all the times I had paid for things for Robert. College, books, the deposit on his first apartment, clothes for his job interviews, everything, always and at everything. And I never asked for anything in return. Just love, just respect, just a place in his life. But he hadn't even given me that. Ma'am? My voice came out calm, calmer than I expected. I don't have family there. There was silence on the other end. I'm sorry, I don't have family in New York City. There must be a mistake. I don't have a son named Robert Baker. But, Ma'am, our records clearly state that you are the patient's mother and that there is a mistake in your records. Good day. And I hung up. I placed the phone on the table with trembling hands. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. Tears were burning, but this time I didn't let them out, because something inside me had changed. Something that had been bending for months, for years perhaps, had finally broken. But it didn't break toward pain, it broke toward clarity. I got up from the table. I put my cup in the sink. I walked toward my living room and sat on my favorite armchair, the one my husband gave me 20 years ago, the one that had witnessed so many nights of reading, knitting, and waiting for Robert to call. I stayed there, looking out the window toward my small yard, The trees moved in the wind. The birds were singing. Life was going on. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something like peace. It wasn't happiness, it wasn't joy, but it was peace. The peace of knowing I had set a boundary. The peace of knowing my dignity was worth more than the love of someone who didn't know how to value me. The peace of knowing that for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. Sometimes we trust too much in those we shouldn't. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read them. There are memories we keep like perfect photographs. Moments frozen in time where everything was simple, where love didn't hurt, where being a mother was the most natural and beautiful thing in the world. Robert was born early one July morning, 32 years ago. It was hurricane season, and that night the sky opened up as if trying to wash the whole world. The streets of San Antonio turned into rivers. The thunder rumbled so loudly it shook the windows. I was in bed, clutching my stomach, feeling the contractions go through me like waves, more and more frequently. My husband Richard ran from one side of the room to the other, nervous, looking for the car keys, the hospital bag, trying to stay calm even though his hands were shaking. "It's okay, Richard. Relax," I told him between breaths. "We have time." But we didn't have much time. The contractions became more intense, more frequent. My body knew it was time, even though my mind wasn't ready to face the unknown yet. Richard helped me down the stairs. The rain drenched us in the seconds it took to reach the car. He drove like I had never seen him drive. Fast, but careful, with his hands tight on the steering wheel. The wipers struggled against the downpour. "Hold on, honey, we're almost there." I was in the back, breathing as they had taught me in prenatal classes, counting the seconds between each contraction, watching the city pass by, blurred by the rain through the window. And I thought, in a few hours I'm going to meet my son. We arrived at the County General Hospital at 3 o'clock in the morning. The nurses greeted me with professionalism, but also with warmth. They put me in a gown. They connected me to monitors. They checked me. "You are very far along, Mom. This baby is in a hurry." Richard stayed with me the whole time. He held my hand. He wiped the sweat from my brow. He told me over and over, "You're doing great. You're amazing." And when it was finally time to push, when I felt my body tearing in two, when the pain was so intense I thought I wouldn't survive, I heard the cry, my son's cry. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. "A beautiful, healthy boy." They placed him on my chest. He was wet, wrinkled, perfect. His eyes were closed and his fists were clenched. And when I felt his skin against mine, when I heard his small, rapid breathing, I knew my life had changed forever. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "I'm your mummy." Richard was crying next to me. He hugged both of us. And in that moment, in that hospital room at 5 o'clock in the morning, with the rain still hitting the windows, we were the happiest family in the world. We named him Robert, after my grandfather, a man who worked on a farm, a man with calloused hands and a huge heart, a man who fixed everything with patience and never raised his voice, who looked you in the eye when you spoke and made you feel like you were the most important person in the world. "May he be like him," I told Richard as I rocked our newborn son. "May he be good. May he be noble." "He will be," my husband promised me. "With a mother like you, how could he not be?" The first few years were like a dream, difficult, exhausting, but beautiful. Robert was a calm baby. He didn't cry much, he slept well. But when he was awake, he was pure curiosity. He touched everything, looked at everything, smiled easily. I remember the mornings in our little house. I would wake up with the sun coming through the window and Robert's cooing in his crib. I would pick him up, change him, breastfeed him while I watched San Antonio wake up outside the window. Richard left for work early. He had a hardware store downtown, a modest but stable business. He would leave at 6 o'clock in the morning and return at 7 o'clock at night. Tired, but always with a smile for his son. I stayed home with Robert. I didn't work outside the house back then. We were a traditional family. Richard provided, I cared for the home, and I didn't mind. I loved it. I loved watching my son grow up, watching him learn to sit, to crawl, to walk. I loved hearing him babble his first words. Mummy was the first. Of course it was the first, because I was the one who was always there. When Robert turned 2, he started helping me in the kitchen. Well, helping is a strong word. He mostly made a mess. He would stand on a stool next to the stove and stir whatever I was cooking. He would spill flour. He would smear dough on his face. He would laugh, and I would laugh with him. We would make pancakes together. I would teach him to mix the batter. His little hands would try to copy my movements. The pancakes would turn out crooked and fat, but we would cook them anyway and eat them together, laughing at how imperfect they were. When you're older, I would tell him, you're going to make the best pancakes in San Antonio. Like yours, Mummy, better than yours. The house always smelled of vanilla and cinnamon, fresh coffee, and home cooking. It smelled like home. On Sundays, we went to the park, Richard, Robert, and I. We would take an old blanket and sit under the trees. Robert would run through the grass, chase pigeons, and climb on the playground equipment. Richard and I would watch him from the blanket, holding hands, feeling like we had everything we needed. We are lucky, Richard would tell me. We are, I would reply. And we were. Robert kept growing, from baby to child, from child to preteen. Each stage brought its challenges, but also its joys. When he started elementary school, I was one of those mothers who never missed a meeting, who baked for the school fair, who helped with the costumes for the spring musical, who knew all the teachers by name. Robert was a good student, the best in the class, hard-working and responsible. We would do homework together at the kitchen table. I would explain math, even though sometimes I didn't fully understand it. He would read me his English compositions, stories about superheroes, about dinosaurs, about adventures in space. You're going to be a writer, I would tell him. No, Mommy, I'm going to be an engineer, like Uncle George. My brother was a civil engineer. Robert admired him. Every time my brother came to visit us, Robert would bombard him with questions. How do they build bridges? Why don't buildings fall down? How does this work? How does that work? And my brother, patient, would explain everything. This kid is going to go far, he would tell me, and I believed him. The years passed quickly, too quickly. One day Robert was 5 years old and fit in my arms, and suddenly he was 15 and taller than me. It was in those years that Richard got sick. No, he didn't get sick. He died. Just like that, without warning, without goodbyes. It was a Tuesday in October. I remember the day perfectly because it was a normal day, completely normal. We had breakfast together. Richard left for work as always. He gave me a kiss on the forehead. See you tonight, honey. But we didn't see each other that night. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I received a call. It was from the hardware store. Mrs. Baker, you need to come to the hospital. Richard, what happened? He had a heart attack. He's at County General Hospital. The world stopped. I rushed to the hospital. Robert came with me. I had gone to pick him up from school. He was 15 years old. He still didn't quite understand what was happening. A doctor came out to talk to us, a young man with tired eyes. "I am very sorry. We did everything we could." "What?" "Your husband passed away 20 minutes ago. The heart attack was massive. He didn't suffer." Robert grabbed my arm. "Mum?" I didn't know what to tell him. I didn't know how to tell him that his father was gone, that we would never see him again, that our family of 3 was now a family of 2. They let us see him. He was on a gurney. He looked asleep, peaceful, as if he might open his eyes at any moment and say, "What happened? Why are you crying?" But he didn't. Robert approached slowly. He touched his hand. "Dad?" Silence. And then my son, my Robert, that teenager who was almost a man but was still my boy, broke down. He cried like I hadn't seen him cry since he was a baby, a heart-wrenching sob, the cry of someone who has just lost their world. I hugged him. I held him. I cried with him. And in that moment, I knew everything had changed. The following days were a blur. The funeral. People coming to offer condolences. The decisions that had to be made. The money we didn't have. The business that had to be closed. Everything fell apart so quickly. I sold the hardware store. I had no choice. I didn't know how to manage it. And we needed the money to survive. With that money, we paid Richard's debts, the funeral, the overdue bills. And I saved what was left for Robert's education because my son was going to college. Even if I had to kill myself working, my son was going to have a career. I started working wherever I could. A dental clinic needed someone to clean the offices. They paid me little, but it was something. I started at 5 o'clock in the morning. I cleaned floors, bathrooms, windows. Everything smelled of bleach and disinfectant. My hands became rough. My back started to hurt. But I didn't care. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I would leave there and go straight to work at the reception desk of another clinic. I answered phones. I scheduled appointments. I smiled at the patients, even though I was dead tired. I left at 8 o'clock at night. I would arrive home, and Robert had already done his homework. He had already prepared some dinner. He was waiting for me. "How was your day, Mummy?" "Fine, son. And yours?" "Fine." We would eat dinner together. We talked about the day, his classes, his friends. And in those moments, sitting at our kitchen table, just the 2 of us, but together, I felt like we were going to be okay. That everything was going to be all right, because we had each other. Robert graduated from high school with good grades. He applied to several universities. He was accepted at the University of Texas to study civil engineering. "You did it, son," I told him with tears in my eyes the day the acceptance letter arrived. "We did it, Mummy. You did it." He hugged me tight. "I don't know what I would do without you. You'll never have to know. I'll always be here." And I meant it. The college years were difficult, but also beautiful. Robert was diligent. He studied late. I would see him at the kitchen table, surrounded by books and notes, with cold coffee next to him, completely focused. Sometimes I would stay awake until he finished. I would make him something to eat. We would sit together in silence, him exhausted, me tired, but together. "You know what I want to do when I graduate?" he asked me one night. "What?" "Build a bridge, a big one, that connects places, that brings people together." "You're going to do it, son. I know you are." He smiled. "And when I do it, it's going to be named after you. Joan Baker Bridge." I laughed. "Absolutely not. Name it after your father." His expression softened. "Or both of you. Richard and Joan Bridge. That sounds better." On Sundays, we kept going to the park. We no longer brought a blanket or went on the playground equipment, but we walked, we talked, we enjoyed the sun. We were a team, mother and son against the world, or so I thought. When Robert was in his final year of college, he started talking about leaving, about looking for work in another city, New York City specifically. There are more opportunities there, Mummy. But it's far away. Not too far. It's a few hours on a bus. Robert, you know I support you in everything, but I'm scared for you to leave. Why? Because you're all I have. He sat next to me. He took my hands. And you are all I have. But I have to do this, Mummy. I have to grow. I have to try. He was right. I knew it. But it hurt anyway. He graduated with honors. I was at the ceremony, in the front row, crying with pride, watching him walk up to the stage in his cap and gown, watching him receive his degree. I thought of Richard, how proud he would be too. I thought of all the sacrifices, all the early mornings cleaning floors, all the sleepless nights. And I thought, it was worth it. Everything was worth it. After the ceremony, Robert hugged me. Thank you, Mummy. None of this would have been possible without you. Always, son. I'll always be here for you. 2 months later, he found a job. A large construction company in New York City. Good salary, good benefits. You did it, I told him when he gave me the news. We did it. I helped him with everything. With the deposit for the apartment, with the basic furniture, with the clothes for work. I spent almost all my savings, but I didn't care. It was for my son. The day he left was one of the hardest days of my life. I walked him to the bus terminal. We carried his big suitcase and his backpack. We waited together in the waiting area. When his bus was announced, we hugged. Take care of yourself, son. You too, Mummy. Call me when you get there. I will. And eat well. Don't just eat fast food. I won't. And don't stay up too late. Mummy, I'm going to be fine. I know, it's just that I'm going to miss you so much. Me too. He got on the bus. He found his seat next to the window. He waved at me. I stayed there, standing in that terminal, watching him through the dirty bus window, trying to imprint his face onto my memory. The bus started. I watched him drive away down the street. How he became smaller and smaller until he disappeared into the traffic. And there, standing in that noisy, crowded terminal, I felt completely alone for the first time since Richard died. I got into a taxi and gave him my address. The whole way I looked out the window without really seeing anything. When I got home, I walked in slowly. Everything was silent, a heavy, uncomfortable silence. I went to Robert's room. It was empty. The bed was made. The desk was clean. There were only a few things he hadn't taken. Old posters on the walls, school trophies. I sat on his bed. It still smelled like him. And I cried. I cried because my son was gone, because the house was empty, because I realized I had spent the last 17 years living for him, and now I didn't know how to live for myself. But I told myself, it's normal, Joan. Children grow up. Children leave. That's life. And I tried to convince myself that it was true. I tried to convince myself that this was natural, that I should be proud, that my job as a mother had been to prepare him for this moment. But a part of me, a small part that didn't want to admit it, felt that something was wrong, that emptiness wasn't just because he had left. It was something deeper. It was the premonition that things would never be the same again, that the son who had promised me he would always be there was slowly drifting away in a way I couldn't stop. And I was right, but I didn't know it yet. I still clung to the image of the child who hugged me in the park, of the teenager who cried in my arms when his father died, of the young man who told me nothing would have been possible without me. I didn't know that son was becoming a thing of the past, and that the man he was becoming was someone I wouldn't recognize. As I tell all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. The first 3 months were perfect. Well, not perfect, but good enough to keep hope alive. Robert called me every day, every night to be exact. At 9 o'clock sharp, after getting home from work, after dinner, before going to bed. My phone would ring, and no matter what I was doing, I would answer immediately. Son! Hi, Mummy. How was your day? And we would talk. About everything. About nothing. About his work at the construction company. About the projects he was working on. About his co-workers. About the enormous city that still intimidated him a little. It's so big, Mummy. So many people. So many cars. So much noise. Do you like it? Yes and no. It's exciting, but it's also tiring. Sometimes I miss the calm of San Antonio. You can always come back, son. This is your home. I know, Mummy. Thank you. I told him about my day too, about work at the clinic, about Rose, my lifelong friend who kept asking about him, about the weather, about the neighborhood news. Simple, ordinary conversations, but to me they meant the world, because they meant we were still connected, that the physical distance hadn't broken our bond. Weekends were harder. The hours stretched endlessly. I would wake up on Saturday morning and the house was silent, a silence that Robert used to fill with his music, with his footsteps, with his voice. I tried to fill that void with activities. I cleaned the house from top to bottom, even though it was already clean. I cooked, even though it was only for me. I watched television without really paying attention. Rose came to visit me almost every Sunday. Oh, Joan, you need to go out more, meet people. You can't stay locked up here waiting for Robert to call. I'm not locked up and I'm not waiting for him to call. I'm just enjoying my peace and quiet. Peace and quiet, Rose scoffed. That's not peace and quiet, that's loneliness. Maybe she was right, but I wasn't ready to admit it. The first subtle change came in the 4th month. One Tuesday, Robert didn't call at 9. I waited until 9:30. Nothing. At 10, I sent him a text. Everything okay, son? He replied an hour later. Yeah, Mummy. Sorry, I lost track of time. No problem. Do you want to talk? I'm really tired. Can we talk tomorrow? Sure, son. Rest up. The next day, he did call, but the conversation was shorter, 15 minutes instead of an hour. Sorry, Mummy. I have to finish some things for work. It's okay, son. Don't worry. I believed him. Of course I believed him. It was natural for him to be busy, for work to consume him, for him to have less time. But then he went from calling every day to calling every other day, and then every 3 days, and then once a week. The change was gradual but constant, like a tide receding so slowly you don't realize it until you're standing on an empty beach, wondering where the sea went. When we did talk, his voice sounded different, distant, as if he were thinking about other things while talking to me. Robert, are you all right? You sound strange. I'm fine, Mummy. Just tired. Are you eating well? Yes. Are you sleeping enough? Yes, Mummy. Are you sure everything is okay? A sigh on the other end. Yes, Mum. Everything is fine. It's just that I've been very busy. I understand, son. I don't want to bother you. You don't bother me. But his tone said otherwise. I tried not to be too intense, not to call him so much, to wait for him to reach out to me. But the days between calls kept getting longer. 1 week, 2 weeks. There was one time when 18 days went by without us speaking. 18 days where I woke up every morning hoping my phone would ring, where I compulsively checked for messages, where I wondered if I had done something wrong, if I had overwhelmed him, if I had been too demanding. When he finally called me, after those 18 days, I tried to sound casual. "Son, what a surprise." "Hi, Mummy. How have you been?" "Fine, fine. And you?" "Very busy. Work is intense." "So intense you can't call your mother?" I said it jokingly, but it came out sharper than I intended. Awkward silence. "I'm sorry, Mummy, I really have been up to my neck in work." "I understand. It's just that I miss you, son. I miss talking to you." "Me too. But you have to understand that my life here is different. I have a lot of responsibilities." "I know. I don't want to pressure you. I just want to hear from you. And you will hear from me. I promise I'll call more often." But he didn't. The calls continued to space out, and when we talked, they were increasingly brief, more superficial. He no longer told me about his day. He no longer asked about mine. They were functional conversations, like fulfilling a duty. "How are you?" "Fine." "What have you been up to?" "Working." "Anything new?" "No." "Well, son, I'll let you get some rest." "Okay, Mummy, take care." And we would hang up. I was left with the phone in my hand, feeling how something invisible but real was breaking between us. It was on one of those brief, almost transactional calls when Robert dropped the bombshell. "Oh, Mummy, I met someone." My heart leapt, not with alarm, with hope. A girlfriend. My son had a girlfriend. "Really, son, that's wonderful. Tell me everything." For the first time in weeks, I heard genuine excitement in his voice. "Her name is Valerie. She's an architect. She works at the same construction company." "That's great, son. What is she like?" "She's incredible, Mummy. She's smart, talented, beautiful. She's 28 years old. She graduated from NYU. 28 years old. Robert was 24. She was older, but it didn't matter." "I'm so happy for you, son. Have you been dating long?" "About 2 months." 2 months, and he was only telling me now. "And how is everything going?" "Very well. I'm really happy, Mummy. I haven't felt this way in a long time." His happiness was palpable, genuine, and I was happy for him. A mother always wants to see her child happy. "I would love to meet her, son." There was a slight pause. "Yeah, sure." "Sometime?" "Sometime? Yeah, Mummy, it's still too soon. We're just getting to know each other." "But you've been dating for 2 months." "Yes, but we'll see. I don't want to rush things." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "It's okay, son. Whenever you're ready." "Thanks for understanding." "Will you send me a picture of you two?" Another pause. "Later, okay? I have to go. Valerie is waiting for me." Valerie is waiting for me. Those 4 words stabbed me in the chest without me knowing why. "Okay, son. Have fun." "Thanks, Mummy. Love you." "I love you too." He hung up before I could say anything else. I sat in my armchair looking at the phone, trying to process what had just happened. My son had a girlfriend. It was good news. I should be celebrating. So why did I have this knot in my stomach? I tried to convince myself it was just motherly nerves, that it was natural to worry. that every mother feels something when her son starts a serious relationship. But it was more than that. It was the tone of his voice when he spoke of her. The way he had said, "Valerie is waiting for me." As if she were the most important thing now. As if I had been relegated to second place, or third place, or no place. The following weeks confirmed my suspicions. Robert barely called anymore, and when he did, all conversations revolved around Valerie. Valerie and I went to this restaurant. Valerie showed me this place. Valerie says that Valerie. I listened. I smiled. I asked the appropriate questions, but inside I felt myself disappearing from his life. I sent him texts, and he took hours to respond, sometimes days. "Sorry, Mummy. I've been with Valerie." I tried to get to know her through the little Robert shared. From what I understood, she came from a well-to-do family in New York City. Her father was also an architect. Her mother was a university professor. She had a younger sister who was studying medicine. A different family from ours. A family with money, with generations of university education, with connections. Not like us. A family from San Antonio. Middle class that became lower class when Richard died. A mother who cleaned floors, and a son who had studied on scholarships. I wondered what Valerie would think of us, of me. I tried not to think that way, to not create stories in my head. But it was difficult when Robert shared less and less with me. One day while we were talking on the phone, I heard a woman's voice in the background. "Robert, are you coming?" "I'm coming, honey." "Honey, is Valerie there?" I asked. "Yes, Mummy. She's here at the apartment." "Oh, I didn't know you were living together." Silence. "We're not living together. She just came to visit me." "I understand." Another awkward silence. "Mummy, I have to go. Valerie and I are going out." "Of course, son. Have fun." "Thanks. I'll call you later." But later became an empty promise. Months passed. Robert was increasingly evasive, more distant, more absent. For my 60th birthday, he didn't come. He sent flowers by mail, yellow roses, 12 roses, one for each month we hadn't seen each other. The card read, "Happy birthday, Mummy. Sorry I couldn't be there. Valerie and I have a lot of work. Love you very much. Robert." I stared at those flowers for hours. They were pretty, expensive, probably, but they were cold. There was no warmth in them. There was no presence. They were just a reminder that my son was hundreds of miles away, too busy with his new life to come see his mother on her birthday. Rose organized a small meal at my house. She invited some friends from the neighborhood. We made turkey and dressing. We sang Happy Birthday. We ate cake. Everyone asked about Robert. "Didn't your son come?" "He couldn't. He's very busy with work." "Oh, what a shame. I bet he misses you a lot." I smiled. I bet. But inside I wondered if it was true. That night, after everyone left, I collected the dishes alone. I put away the leftovers, I swept the floor, I washed the kitchen, and when everything was finally clean and tidy, I sat in my armchair with a cup of tea. The yellow roses were in a vase on the table. I stared at them, and for the first time, I allowed myself to think what I had been avoiding for months. My son is drifting away, and I don't know how to stop it. Worse still, I was beginning to suspect that I couldn't stop it. Because when someone wants to leave, when someone has decided that there are things more important than you, there is nothing you can do. You can only watch them go, and try not to break in the process. The flowers wilted over the days, the petals turned brown. They fell off one by one. I should have thrown them away. Any normal person would have thrown them away. but I left them there, dry, dead, in that vase on my table, as a reminder of something I didn't want to accept yet. That the son I knew, the son who called me every day, the son who told me nothing would have been possible without me, that son no longer existed. Or at least, he no longer existed for me. There are moments in life where you force yourself to believe a lie because the truth is too painful. Moments where you convince yourself that you are the problem because it's easier to change yourself than to accept that someone you love is hurting you. I reached that point after my 60th birthday. I sat in my kitchen looking at those dead roses and made a decision. I was to blame. Of course I was. I must call too much. I must ask too many questions. I must be one of those intense mothers, one of those who can't let go of their children, one of those who suffocates them with her love. Robert needed space. He needed to build his own life. And I, with my constant need to know about him, to talk to him, to be part of his world, was drowning him. That narrative made sense. It was logical. It was what all the self-help magazines said. Learn to let go of your adult children. Don't be a helicopter mum. Let your son live his life. So I decided to do exactly that. I stopped calling him completely. If he wanted to talk to me, he could call me. I wasn't going to pressure him anymore. A week went by without us speaking. I waited. I compulsively checked my phone, but I didn't dial his number. Give him space, I repeated to myself. He's busy. He'll call you when he can. 2 weeks passed. 3. A month. Some days it was hard to breathe. I woke up in the mornings with a weight on my chest, wondering if Robert would call that day. I went to work. I came home. I looked at my phone. Nothing. Rose noticed. Of course she did. Joan, how long has it been since you talked to Robert? A month, more or less. And why don't you call him? Because I'm trying to give him space, not be intense. Rose looked at me with those eyes I had known for 40 years, those eyes that saw through all my defenses. Or are you punishing yourself for needing your son? Her words hit me. I'm not punishing myself. I'm just respecting his space. There's a difference between respecting his space and disappearing from his life, Joan. And what do you want me to do? Call him and bother him? Pressure him? I want you to stop thinking that needing your son is bothering him. I remained silent. Rose sighed. I don't know what's going on with Robert, but I know it's not your fault. You are a loving mother, a good mother, and if he can't see that, the problem is his, not yours. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But it was easier to blame myself. In the 5th week, my phone finally rang. It was Robert. My heart leaped so violently I thought it would come out of my chest. I took 3 deep breaths before answering. I tried to sound casual, as if I hadn't been waiting for this call for 35 days. Son? Hi, Mummy. How have you been? His voice sounded cheerful, light, as if nothing had happened, as if we hadn't gone more than a month without speaking. Fine, son. And you? Very well. Very well. In fact, I was calling because I have some news. My heart sped up again. What happened? Valerie and I are getting married. The world stopped. All the background noise disappeared. The ticking of the kitchen clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant barking of a dog in the street. Everything went silent. Mummy, are you there? Yes. Sorry, son. What a surprise. Good surprise, I swallowed. Of course it is. Congratulations, son. I'm so happy for you. Was I happy? I didn't know. I felt so many things at the same time that I couldn't distinguish one emotion from another. Joy because my son was happy. Fear because everything was changing too quickly. Pain because I barely knew this woman with whom my son would share his life. And a question I didn't dare ask out loud. Is there room for me in this new family you are building? Thanks, Mummy, I'm very excited. I can imagine. When is the wedding? In 3 months. It's going to be simple. In New York City. Just close family and intimate friends. Of course. I'll definitely go. There was a pause. Small, but noticeable. Great. I'm going to send you the details by email. By email? Yeah, Mummy. Valerie is organizing everything online. It's easier that way. I understand. I didn't understand anything. Well, Mummy, I have to go. I need to keep calling people to let them know. Have you told many people already? Yes, Valerie's parents, her sister, some friends. And you're only telling me now? It slipped out. I didn't want to sound resentful, but it sounded exactly like that. Mummy, please don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm just asking. Well, it sounds like you are. Look, you're important to me, but I also have to coordinate with a lot of people. Not everything revolves around you. His words were like a slap. I'm not saying everything revolves around me. Then don't take it personally. How am I not supposed to take it personally, Robert? I'm your mother. Exactly. You're my mother, not my wife. Valerie is my priority now. Silence. A long, heavy silence, filled with everything we couldn't say. Mummy, are you there? Sorry, I didn't mean to sound like that. It's just that there's a lot of stress with the wedding. Many decisions, many things to organize. I understand. Do you really? Yes, son. I really do. I congratulate you. I congratulate you both. Thanks, Mummy. That means a lot to me. Did it mean a lot? I wasn't sure of anything anymore. I'll send you the wedding details, okay? Okay. I love you, Mummy. And I love you, son. He hung up. I stayed sitting in my kitchen with the phone still to my ear, listening to the dial tone, feeling something inside me crack a little more. My son was getting married, to a woman I didn't know, in a wedding that was being planned without my involvement, and I was smiling and saying I was happy, because that was what I was supposed to do. 2 days later, I received the invitation by email. It was elegant, professional, with a minimalist design in beige and gold tones. There was a photo of Robert and Valerie, him smiling from ear to ear. Her, beautiful, in a white dress, perfect makeup, wavy hair falling over her shoulders. They looked happy. They looked in love, and I felt like an intruder looking at that photo. The invitation read, Robert Baker and Valerie Torres request the honor of your presence at the celebration of their marriage. It didn't say, with love, Robert and Valerie. It didn't say, we want to share this special day with you. Just request the honor of your presence, as if I were just another guest. Like any co-worker, like any distant acquaintance, like someone expendable. I printed the invitation. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to see it on paper for it to feel real. I put it on the refrigerator with a magnet. For the next few days, I looked at it every time I walked past the kitchen, and each time I felt the same knot in my stomach. A week later, gathering my courage, I called Robert. Son? Yes, Mummy. I received the invitation. Oh, that's good. What did you think of it? Very nice. Hey, son, I wanted to ask you something. Tell me. Do you think I could meet Valerie before the wedding? I don't know. Maybe we could grab a coffee or lunch together. Oh. Silence on the other end. It's just complicated, Mummy. Complicated? Yes. Valerie and I are organizing everything. We're running around, tasting cakes, looking at flowers, talking to the photographer. It's chaos. I understand, but I thought that's exactly why I could help. I'm your mother. I would love to be involved. Yes, but Valerie has very clear ideas about how she wants everything to be, and her mom is helping her with the planning. You know how brides are. They want everything to be perfect. Valerie's mom is helping her, but I'm not. I understand. There will be time after the wedding for you to get to know each other better, right? When things calm down, I guess. Perfect. So I'll see you at the wedding. Robert. Yes? Can I at least talk to her on the phone? Introduce myself? Congratulate her? Another awkward pause. Let me ask her, okay? She's really stressed too. I don't want to pressure her. Pressure her? As if I were a burden, a problem, something that caused stress. It's okay, son. I don't want to cause problems. You're not causing problems, Mummy. It's just that, you know. No, I didn't know. I have to go. I need to get back to the preparations. Sure. Take care. You too. I hung up and stared at the phone. I realized I was trembling, not from cold, from anger, from frustration, from pain, but more than anything, from powerlessness. Because it didn't matter what I said, it didn't matter what I did. I had been relegated to a supporting role in my son's life, and he didn't even see it. Or worse, he saw it and didn't care. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. During that time, Robert called me 3 times, brief conversations, always in a hurry, always with an excuse to hang up quickly. I swallowed my questions, my desire to know more, my need to be involved, because I didn't want to be the intense mother, the problematic mother. I wanted to be understanding, patient, respectful, even if it was killing me inside. Rose invited me out, to the movies, for walks, to lunch, trying to get me out of the house, out of the spiral of thoughts I was sinking into. Joan, you can't keep living like this. Like what? Like that. Waiting, swallowing everything, pretending you're fine when clearly you're not. I am fine. No, you're not. And it's okay not to be. What's not okay is that you keep pretending. But pretending was easier than facing the truth, and the truth was too painful. 2 weeks before the wedding, I decided I needed to buy something to wear. I couldn't show up at my son's wedding wearing just anything. I had to look nice, presentable. I went to a shopping mall. I went into several stores. I tried on dresses, blouses, skirts. I didn't like anything. Or rather, nothing made me feel the way I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel important, valued, like the mother of the groom. But every dress I tried on made me feel invisible. I finally bought a navy blue dress, elegant, but not flashy, appropriate for a wedding, appropriate for just another guest. I also bought new shoes, and I went to the neighborhood salon to get my hair done. Special occasion? The stylist asked. My son's wedding. How exciting. First child? The only one. Oh, how lovely. I bet he's so happy to share this day with you. I smiled. I bet. A lie. Everything was a lie. But it was easier to lie to strangers than to admit the truth. The day before the wedding, I took the bus to New York City. Another 12 hours of travel. But this time I wasn't excited. I wasn't imagining beautiful moments. I was traveling with a knot in my stomach, with fear, with the certainty that something was going to go wrong. I arrived early in the morning. Robert had given me the address of a hotel near the wedding venue. Nothing luxurious. A simple room in a 3-star hotel. I checked in. I went up to the room. I left my suitcase. I sat on the bed. And I allowed myself to cry for a few minutes. Just a few minutes. Because I had to pull myself together. I had to be ready. I had to be strong. The wedding was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in a garden in the south of the city. I arrived at 3. I didn't want to be late, but I didn't want to be the first one there either. When I arrived, there were already people. Servers setting up the last things, musicians preparing their instruments, flowers. Everywhere. It was beautiful, simple, but elegant. And I was standing there at the entrance, feeling completely out of place. I saw Valerie from afar. She was with a group of women, all of them laughing, all beautiful, all impeccably dressed. I took a deep breath and approached. Valerie turned around. She looked me up and down. Her eyes stopped for a second longer than necessary on my shoes, on my dress, on my hair. And in that second, I knew exactly what she was thinking. This woman doesn't fit here. But she smiled. A perfect, practiced smile. You must be Joan, Robert's mother. Yes. Nice to meet you, Valerie. I finally get to meet you. I leaned in to give her a hug. She accepted it, but it was mechanical, without warmth, like hugging someone you were forced to hug. She quickly pulled away. It's nice to meet you. Robert has told me so much about you. Had he? I doubted it. You too. You look beautiful. Thanks. Awkward silence. Well, excuse me. I have to get back to attending to the guests. You know how it is? And she left. Just like that. Without asking how I was. Without asking about the trip. Without introducing me to the women she was with. She just left. I stood there, in the middle of that beautiful garden, surrounded by strangers, feeling more alone than ever. I looked for Robert. I found him near the altar, talking to some men in suits. He looked nervous, but happy. I approached. Robert. He turned around. Mum, you made it. He hugged me. It was a quick hug, the kind you give when people are watching. Of course I made it, son. I wouldn't miss it for anything. I'm glad. Hey, thanks for coming. As if I had a choice not to come. How are you feeling? Nervous, excited, all mixed up. That's normal. Yeah. One of the men called him. Excuse me, Mum. I have to get back to this. We'll talk later, okay? Sure, son. And he left too. I was left there, alone, again. I looked for my seat among the chairs. There were cards with names. I found mine. 3rd row. Not the first. Not next to the immediate family. The 3rd. I sat down. I looked around. The 1st row was reserved for Valerie's parents. The 2nd for the grandparents and aunts and uncles. I, the mother of the groom, was in the 3rd row, between distant cousins and family friends. As if I were an afterthought. Someone who wasn't that important. I swallowed hard. I tried not to cry. It doesn't matter, I told myself. What matters is that Robert is happy. But it did matter. Of course it mattered. The ceremony began. It was beautiful. Robert looked so happy. Valerie looked radiant. When they exchanged vows, I cried. But they weren't just tears of joy. They were tears of grief. Because something told me I was losing my son, not to a new life. I was losing him to me. After the wedding, everything became silence. Not the kind of peaceful silence that comforts you, but the kind of deafening silence that constantly reminds you of what you have lost. Robert called me once, after returning from their honeymoon. A week in Miami that I saw completely documented on Valerie's social media. Photos on the beach, in fancy restaurants, toasting with champagne glasses, smiling, kissing, happy. I liked every photo. I commented things like, so beautiful or enjoy. Valerie never responded to my comments, not a single one. When Robert finally called, he sounded relaxed, content. Hi, Mummy. How have you been? Fine, son. How was the honeymoon? Incredible. Miami is beautiful. You should go sometime. With what money? I wanted to say, but I didn't. And what have you been up to? The usual. Work, the house. Nothing special. That's good. Silence. Well, Mummy, just calling to say hello. We're organizing the apartment. Valerie brought a lot of things, and we have to put everything away. Of course, son. Don't worry, I'll call you soon, okay? When you can. Take care. You too. And he hung up. 5 minutes. The conversation lasted 5 minutes. I stared at the phone, feeling that emptiness in my chest grow larger. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Robert called me every 2 or 3 weeks. Brief, superficial conversations, always in a hurry. How are you, Mummy? Fine, son. And you? How is everything with Valerie? Good, good. Everything's calm. That's good. Hey, when are you two coming to visit me? It's been so long since I've seen you. Soon, Mummy. Soon, soon. That word became an empty promise, a placebo he gave me to keep me quiet. But soon never came. I tried to fill my days. Rose and I signed up for knitting classes at the neighborhood community center. I learned to make scarves, hats, little baby blankets. Who are those little blankets for? Rose asked me one day. For when I have grandchildren, I replied without thinking. Rose looked at me, but didn't say anything. We both knew that was a long way from happening, or so I thought. It was on one of those bi-weekly calls when Robert gave me the news. It was a Tuesday night. I was watching television when my phone rang. I saw his name on the screen, and my heart did that leap. It always did when he called. Son? Hi, Mummy, how are you? Fine. Everything okay over there? Yes, very well. In fact, I have some news. Something in his tone alerted me. He sounded excited, nervous, like when he was a child and had something important to tell me. What is it? Valerie is pregnant. The world stopped. All the background noise disappeared. The television, the hum of the refrigerator, the street traffic. Everything went silent. Mummy, are you there? Yes, sorry, What did you say? That Valerie is pregnant. We're having a baby. I felt the tears welling up, how my heart expanded so much it hurt. Son, you don't know how happy I am. And it was true. I was genuinely happy. I was going to be a grandmother, after so many years taking care of Robert. After all the sacrifices, after all the pain, I was going to have a grandson. How far along is she? 3 months. 3 months. And he was only telling me now. Why didn't you tell me sooner? We wanted to wait. You know, just in case. The first 3 months are the most delicate. I understand. But I didn't understand why he had told other people before me, because I was sure I wasn't the first to know. And how is Valerie? How is she feeling? Tired, but fine. She's had some morning sickness, but nothing serious. She's excited. I can imagine. Do you know what it is yet? Not yet. They'll tell us at the next appointment. How exciting, son. Yeah, Mummy. I'm really happy. scared too, but happy. For the first time in months, I heard genuine warmth in his voice. I heard the son I knew, the boy who looked for me when he was scared, the young man who shared his dreams with me. "You're going to be a wonderful father, son. I hope so. I know so." Comfortable silence, the kind we hadn't had in a long time. "Hey, Mummy." "Yes?" "Thank you for everything, for always being there." I felt the tears finally overflowing. "Always, son. I'll always be here for you." "I know." We talked a little more. He told me about the plans they had, about the baby's room they would start preparing, about the names they were considering. When we hung up, I stayed sitting in my armchair crying. But this time they were tears of happiness, of hope. Thinking that maybe, just maybe, things were changing, that with the arrival of this baby, Robert would let me be part of his life again, that I could be the grandmother I had always dreamed of being. How naive I was. The following days were the happiest I'd had in months. I told Rose, my co-workers, the ladies in the knitting group, "I'm going to be a grandmother." Everyone congratulated me. They hugged me. They shared my joy. I started knitting, a blue blanket in case it was a boy, a pink one in case it was a girl. Then I decided to make a yellow one to be sure. Every stitch was a prayer, a thought of love for that baby I hadn't met yet, but already loved with all my heart. I called Robert a few days later. "Son, I'm knitting a blanket for the baby." "That's sweet, Mummy, thank you." "Can I make anything else? Hats? Booties?" "Sure, Mummy, whatever you want." "And Valerie? Can I talk to her? Congratulate her? Ask her what she needs?" There was a pause. "She's resting right now, but I'll tell her to call you." "Do you promise?" "I promise." But Valerie never called. I sent her a message on Facebook. "Valerie, congratulations on the pregnancy. I'm so excited to be a grandmother. If you need anything, anything at all, I'm here." A big hug. She read it. I saw the 2 blue check marks. But she didn't reply. I sent her another message a week later. "Hi, Valerie. How are you feeling? I hope you're well. Sending you a hug." She read it. She didn't reply. I tried not to take it personally. I told myself she was busy, that the pregnancy had her tired, that she probably didn't even realize she wasn't responding to me. But something inside me knew that wasn't it. I called Robert again. "Son, I sent Valerie some messages, but she hasn't replied. Is she all right?" "Yes, Mommy, she's fine. She's just very tired. You know how pregnancy is." "Can you ask her to call me? Even for 5 minutes. I'd like to talk to her." Another awkward silence. "Mummy, Valerie isn't much of a phone talker. She prefers messages." "But she doesn't respond to my messages." "Give her time. She's very emotional right now with the pregnancy." There was always an excuse. There was always a reason why I couldn't get closer. Months passed. I followed Valerie's pregnancy through Facebook. She uploaded photos of her baby bump, the clothes they were buying, the baby's room they were decorating. It was a boy. They were going to name him Matthew. Matthew. My grandson would be named Matthew. I commented on every post. "How beautiful. I can't wait to meet my Matthew. I love you both." Valerie never replied. Not once. But she did reply to other people's comments, her friends, her families. She just ignored mine. I tried not to give it too much importance. I told myself it was my imagination, that I was being paranoid. But it was difficult to ignore the obvious. I sent a package by mail. The blanket I had knitted. A teddy bear. A card. The card read, "For my future grandson. I can't wait to meet you. I already love you more than words can express. Your grandmother, Joan. 2 weeks passed before I received a message from Robert. Mummy, your package arrived. Thanks. The blanket is pretty. That was all. Not a photo of Valerie holding the blanket. Not a thank you message from her. Nothing. Just, the blanket is pretty, as if it were any object, not something I had made with my own hands, with love, with hope. I called Robert. Son, did Valerie like the blanket? Yes, Mummy, I already sent you a message. I know, but I thought maybe she would call me to thank me. Mummy, I already told you. She's not very expressive, not even a message. She's very tired. The pregnancy has her exhausted. Always the same excuse. And you, son? How are you feeling? Nervous? Yes, very nervous, but also excited. Have you gone to prenatal classes? Yes. Valerie and her mum go together. Valerie and her mum, not Valerie and me. And do you go with them? Sometimes, when I can get off work. That's good, son. I wanted to ask him why I wasn't invited, why Valerie's mum could be involved, but I couldn't. But I was afraid of sounding resentful, of sounding like the problem. So I swallowed it, as I swallowed everything. Hey, son, I wanted to ask you something. Tell me, when Matthew is born, can I come meet him? It should have been a ridiculous question. Obvious. Of course, a grandmother can go meet her grandson. But something in his silence told me nothing was obvious with them. Sure, Mummy, of course. When? The same day he's born? It's better to wait and see how everything goes, okay? The delivery can be complicated. Valerie is going to need time to recover. I understand. But afterwards, yes, right? Can I go after? Yes, Mummy. We'll see how we organize everything. We'll see. Another vague promise. Another way of saying maybe, without saying no. Okay, son. Hey, Mummy, I have to go. Valerie is calling me. Of course. Say hi to her for me. I will. Take care. He hung up. I stayed sitting in my kitchen, looking at the photos I had stuck on the refrigerator. Old photos of Robert, the day he was born, his first day of school, his graduation. And I thought about how that baby in my arms had become a man who kept me at a distance. How that relationship that had been my reason for living for 32 years was falling apart without me being able to do anything to stop it. Rose came to visit me that afternoon. How are things with Robert? Fine. Valerie is pregnant. That's wonderful. When is he due? In 3 months. Have you planned when you're going to go? I remained silent. Joan, were you invited? Robert says yes, after the delivery. After? Not the same day? He says Valerie is going to need time. Rose looked at me with those eyes that saw everything. Joan, what's really going on? And it was then, sitting in my kitchen with my best friend, that I finally said it out loud. I think Valerie doesn't want me around. Why do you think that? Because she ignores my messages, because she doesn't thank me for the things I send her, because Robert always has an excuse for me not to talk to her, because Valerie's mom is involved in everything. But I'm not. The tears started to fall, because I feel like they are pushing me away from my own grandson before he's even born. Rose hugged me. Oh, Joan, I don't know what to do, Rose. I've tried everything. I've been patient. I've given them space. I've tried not to pressure them, but nothing works. Have you talked about this with Robert? I can't. If I do, I'll sound like the problematic mother-in-law, the intense grandmother, and then they really will push me away completely. But you can't stay quiet forever. And what do you want me to do? Demand? Complain? I've already lost my son. I can't risk losing my grandson too. Rose sighed. You haven't lost your son. But we both knew I had, or at least I had lost the son I knew. That son who called me every day, who included me in his life, who made me feel important. That son no longer existed, and the man he had become saw me as an obligation, as something he had to manage, as a problem to solve. 2 weeks before Matthew was born, I worked up the courage and called Robert. Son, I need to talk to you. Tell me, Mummy. I want to be there when Matthew is born. Silence. Mummy, we already talked about this. No, we didn't talk. You told me we'd see. But I need to know. I need to plan. I need to buy my ticket. It's just that I don't know if it's a good idea, Mummy. I felt the floor opening beneath my feet. What? Valerie is very nervous, very anxious. The doctors say she needs to be calm. And I won't let her be calm? It's not that. It's just that having a lot of people around stresses her out. A lot of people? I'm your mother. I'm the grandmother. I know, Mummy, but I heard voices in the background. Valerie saying something I couldn't quite hear. Mummy, let's talk later, okay? No, Robert. Please, just tell me the truth. Does Valerie not want me to go? Silence. Long. Too long. She thinks that it would be better to wait a few days, to give us time to settle in, to adjust. And what do you think? I think I have to support my wife. She's the one who's giving birth. She's the one who's going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to harm her, Robert. I didn't say you were going to harm her. Then why can't I go? Because she needs space, Mummy. Why can't you understand that? His tone became defensive, frustrated. I understand, son. What I don't understand is why Valerie's mum can be there. But I can't. Because she's her mother, and I'm yours. It's different. Why is it different? Because it is, Mummy. Don't keep this going. Robert. Mummy, please, don't make things complicated. I have enough stress already. Valerie is about to give birth. I have a lot of work. I'm trying to keep everything under control. Can you, for once, not make this harder? His words hit me like a slap. Make what harder? Wanting to meet my grandson? Yes, that. Because now is not a good time. And when is a good time going to be? When I tell you. Silence. A cold, hard silence, full of everything we weren't saying. I understand, I finally said. You really do? Robert asked, with obvious relief on his face. Yes, son. I understand perfectly. Thank you, Mummy. I knew you would understand. But I didn't understand anything. I only understood that they were leaving me out. That after all the sacrifices, after all the love, after everything I had given, I wasn't important enough to be present at one of the most important moments of my son's life. I'll let you know when he's born, okay? Whatever you want. Mummy, don't get like that. I'm not getting any way, Robert. I'm just respecting what you and Valerie want. Thanks, you're welcome. I love you, Mummy. Did he love me? I wasn't sure what that meant anymore. And I love you, son. I hung up before I started to cry. I sat in my armchair and cried like I hadn't cried in months. I cried for that grandson who was about to be born and whom I might not meet for weeks or months or ever. I cried for that son who had chosen to shut me out. I cried for that relationship that was dying without me being able to save it. And I cried for myself, for the woman who had given everything and now had nothing. The day my grandson was born was one of the strangest days of my life. A mix of absolute joy and deep pain that I didn't know could coexist in the same moment. I didn't receive a single call, not a single message, no notification. I found out on Facebook. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was at work cleaning the last office of the day when my phone vibrated. A Facebook notification. Normally I ignored them until I got home, but something made me check. It was a post from Valerie. The photo showed a newborn baby wrapped in a blue hospital blanket. Small, perfect, with his eyes closed and his tiny fists clenched against his face, his skin still reddish, the white cap covering his head. The caption read, "The love of our lives has arrived. Welcome, Matthew Baker Torres. 6 pounds, 10 ounces, 20 inches long, mummy and baby healthy and happy." I froze in the middle of the office, still holding the mop, looking at that photo on my phone screen. My grandson had been born, and I was finding out through a social network, like any stranger, like any distant acquaintance, as if I weren't the grandmother. The tears started to fall uncontrollably. I sat on the office floor, still wearing my cleaning gloves, and I cried. One of my co-workers came in and found me like that. "Joan, what happened? Are you okay?" I couldn't speak. I just showed her the phone. My grandson was born. "But that's wonderful. Why are you crying?" "I found out on Facebook." My co-worker's expression changed. She understood immediately. "Oh, Joan!" She helped me up. She took off my gloves. She took me to the restroom so I could wash my face. "Go home. I'll finish up here." "But I still have work to do." "It doesn't matter. Go. Call your son." I grabbed my things and left the clinic. The journey home was automatic. I don't remember taking the bus. I don't remember walking the 3 blocks from the stop to my door. I only remember that suddenly I was sitting in my kitchen, looking at that photo on my phone, zooming in to see my grandson's little face better. He had Robert's nose, the broad forehead. His hands already looked like my son's when he was a baby. He was beautiful, perfect, and I hadn't been there. I zoomed in more on the photo. I tried to memorize every detail. The shape of his lips, his plump cheeks, the way his little fingers curled. The comments on the post were already hundreds. "Congratulations, what a beautiful baby. Welcome to the family, blessings. I can't wait to meet him." I hadn't commented. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I had the right to comment, as if I had found out naturally, when the reality was that I had been excluded from the most important moment. I scrolled down through the comments. I saw that Valerie's mother had written, "My beautiful grandson, you are the love of my life. Welcome, my angel." Her mum had obviously already met him. She had probably been at the hospital, in the delivery room, holding Valerie's hand, being the first to hold Matthew. All the things I had dreamed of doing. I kept scrolling. Friends of Robert and Valerie congratulating them, co-workers, cousins, aunts and uncles, everyone knowing, everyone celebrating. And I, the paternal grandmother, finding out through social media. I waited an hour, 2, 3. I checked my phone every 2 minutes, hoping Robert would call me, send me a message, tell me Mommy Matthew was born. But my phone remained silent. At 8 o'clock at night, when I couldn't take it anymore, I dialed myself. It rang 6 times before he answered. "Mummy?" His voice sounded tired but happy. "Son, I saw the photo. Congratulations." A brief silence. "Oh yeah, thanks. How are you all? How is Valerie?" "Good. Tired, but good. It was a long delivery, but everything went perfectly." "I'm so glad, son. Matthew is beautiful." "Thanks, Mummy." More awkward silence. He didn't ask if I had seen the post. He didn't apologize for not calling me. He didn't mention anything about the fact that I, his mother, had found out about the birth of my grandson through social media. Nothing. Robert. Yes? Why didn't you call me? I heard him take a deep breath. Sorry, Mommy, it was just very fast. Valerie went into labor at 5 o'clock in the morning. We rushed to the hospital. He was born at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And afterwards we were busy with the doctors, with the paperwork, with getting Valerie settled in the room. But you had time to post on Facebook. Valerie did that. Valerie had time to post, but you didn't have time to call your mother. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Mommy, please don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm just trying to understand why I found out about the birth of my grandson through a Facebook post. I already told you. Everything was very fast. So fast that in 12 hours you couldn't send me a message, a 2-word text. Matthew was born. I was tired, Mummy, but not too tired to let all of Facebook know. Why are you making such a drama out of this? His words hit me. A drama? Robert, I'm your mother. I'm Matthew's grandmother. I'm not a Facebook follower. I'm not a distant acquaintance. I deserve more than finding out through a social network. You're right. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, I should have called you, but it's done. You found out. Matthew is fine. We are all fine. His apology sounded automatic. Empty. Can I go meet him? The words came out desperate, needy. Mummy, we already talked about this. No, Robert. We didn't talk. You told me to wait. But he's already born. There's no reason to wait anymore. Valerie just gave birth. She needs to rest. I won't bother her. I just want to see my grandson. 5 minutes, that's all. It's not a good time. When is a good time going to be? I don't know, Mummy. Give me a few days. A few days? Robert, he's my grandson. And he's my son. And I need you to respect what I'm asking you. His tone became firm, final. And what I need doesn't matter. Of course it matters. But you can't come right now. Why not? Because Valerie doesn't want visitors. There it was. He had finally said it. Not even from her mother-in-law? She only wants close family. I am close family. Her family. Her parents. Her sister. And I'm not family. Mummy, stop it. I'm not going to argue this with you. Give me time and I'll let you know when you can come. Tears were burning me, but I didn't let them out. I wasn't going to cry on the phone. Okay, Robert. Thanks for understanding. But I didn't understand anything. Take care. You too, Mummy. He hung up. I stayed sitting in my kitchen, with the phone still in my hand, feeling how everything was collapsing. For the next 2 weeks, I followed my grandson's life through Facebook. Valerie posted photos every day. Matthew sleeping, Matthew yawning, Matthew with his little hands gripping someone's finger, Matthew in his crib, Matthew being nursed. Artsy photos, of course. And in several photos, she appeared. The other grandmother, Valerie's mum. In one photo, she was holding Matthew, looking at him with adoration, smiling from ear to ear. The caption read, "With the most loving grandma in the world. Thanks, Mum, for being here from day one. I couldn't do this without you." I stared at that photo for hours, the other grandmother holding my grandson, being a part of his life, being recognized, being loved, and me here, hundreds of miles away, watching everything through a screen, invisible, irrelevant, forgotten. I commented on some posts at first. My beautiful Matthew. I love you, my grandson. Blessings to you all. Valerie never replied to my comments, but she replied to others. After a few days, I stopped commenting. Why bother? It was obvious that my presence, even virtual, was not welcome. Rose came to visit me almost every day. She would find me sitting in my kitchen, looking at my phone, watching photos of a baby they wouldn't let me meet. Joan, this isn't right. I know. Have you talked to Robert? He tells me to be patient, that soon I'll be able to go. It's been 2 weeks already. I know. And are you going to keep waiting? What else can I do, Rose? You can demand. You can set boundaries. You can tell your son that this is not fair. And if I do, they will completely push me away. They've already pushed you away, Joan. What more can they take from you? She was right, but I was still afraid of losing the little I had left. In the 3rd week, I decided to try one more time. I sent Robert a message. Son, it's been 3 weeks. Please let me come meet Matthew. I promise I won't bother. I just want to see him. Hold him once, that's all. It took him 4 hours to reply. Let me talk to Valerie. 2 days later. Mummy, you can come this weekend, but only for 1 day. Valerie is still recovering and doesn't want long visits. 1 day. Only 1 day to meet my grandson. But it was better than nothing. Thank you, son. I'll be there. I bought the bus ticket immediately. For Friday night. I would arrive early Saturday. I packed a small suitcase, even though I would only be staying 1 day. I packed the clothes I had bought for the occasion. Dress pants, a nice blouse, comfortable but presentable shoes. I wanted to look nice. I wanted Valerie to see that I wasn't a mess, that I was a dignified, presentable woman who deserved respect. I also packed gifts. An outfit for Matthew. A light blue one with embroidered bears. A new blanket I had knitted. This one with his name embroidered. Matthew. And I put the old photo of Robert in my leather purse. The one of him when he was 5 years old and hugging me in the park. I didn't know why I was taking it. I just knew I needed to have something of that son who used to want me close. On Friday night, I took the bus. Another 12 hours of travel. But this time I wasn't excited. I wasn't imagining beautiful moments. I was traveling with a knot in my stomach. With fear. 12 hours looking out the dark window, imagining what that moment would be like, holding my grandson for the first time, seeing his little face, smelling his head, feeling his weight in my arms. I had dreamed of that moment for 9 months, and it was finally about to happen. I arrived in New York City on Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning. I went straight to a public restroom to freshen up. I changed my clothes. I combed my hair. I put on perfume. I put on makeup, even though my hands were shaking. Robert had told me to meet them at St. Anne's Hospital. Valerie had a checkup appointment with the pediatrician at 9. I took a taxi. The traffic was terrible, but I finally arrived at 9:15. I looked for them in the waiting room, and there they were. Valerie sitting with Matthew in her arms, wrapped in a light blue blanket. Robert next to her, checking his phone. My heart beat so hard I thought it would come out of my chest. I walked toward them slowly, as if approaching something sacred. Son. Robert looked up. His expression was strange, a mix of surprise and something else I couldn't identify. Discomfort? Mum, you made it. He didn't get up to hug me. He just nodded. Yes, good morning. I approached Valerie. She quickly looked me up and down. I saw her eyes evaluate my clothes, my hair, my shoes, and I saw the judgment in her gaze, but she smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Joan, it's good you came. Thanks for letting me come. The words sounded more submissive than I would have liked. I looked down, at the bundle in her arms. Matthew, my grandson. He's beautiful, I whispered. Thank you. Can I, can I hold him? Valerie squeezed Matthew against her chest. He's asleep right now. If I move him, he'll wake up and then he cries a lot. It's okay. I can wait. I sat in the chair next to them. The silence was awkward. Robert was still on his phone. Valerie was looking straight ahead. I was looking at Matthew, trying to see his little face between the blankets. How have you been feeling? I asked Valerie, trying to make conversation. Fine. Tired. But fine. That's normal. The first few days are the hardest. Uh-huh. More silence. And how is he eating? Fine. Is he sleeping? More or less. Her answers were clipped, monosyllabic, making it clear she had no interest in talking to me. 20 minutes passed that felt like hours. Finally, Matthew moved. He opened his eyes. He started making little noises. Now I can, I said with hope in my voice. Can I hold him? Valerie squeezed him tighter against her. He's hungry. I'm going to nurse him. She stood up and went to the restroom before I could say anything. I was left there, sitting next to Robert, feeling the humiliation burn me. Son. Yes, Mummy. Everything's fine. But he wouldn't look me in the eyes. Valerie took 30 minutes in the restroom. When she came out, her name was called for the consultation. She went in with Matthew. Robert got up to join her. I stayed outside, in the waiting room like a stranger. I waited 45 minutes. When they finally came out, Valerie was carrying Matthew and talking to the doctor about the next appointment. Robert was next to her, carrying the baby's bag. Neither of them looked at me. I caught up with them in the hallway. How did everything go? Fine. Matthew is perfect. Growing very well, Robert said. That's great. Hey, son, are we going to your place? I'd like to spend time with you guys, see where you live. Robert and Valerie exchanged a look. To be honest, Mommy, Valerie is tired. We were thinking of grabbing a quick bite and then resting. I can go with you to eat. Another look between them. Also, my family is coming this afternoon, Valerie said, speaking directly to me for the first time. The house is going to be full. No problem. I can meet them. I don't think that's a good idea. It will be too many people. Too much noise. It won't be comfortable for you. Comfortable for me. As if she were thinking about my comfort and not the fact that they simply didn't want me there. I looked at Robert, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to say, she's my mum, she can stay. But he didn't say anything. He just put his hand on my shoulder and said, Mummy, please, don't make things complicated. Don't make things complicated. Those words again. I felt something inside me break. It's okay, I said, with a voice I didn't recognize as my own. I understand. You really do? Robert asked, with obvious relief on his face. Yes, thank you, Mummy. I knew you would understand. We went to a coffee shop near the hospital. We ordered sandwiches that I barely touched. The conversation was forced, superficial. Valerie nursed Matthew at the table, using a blanket to cover herself. I tried not to look, to give her privacy, even though all I wanted was to see my grandson. After an hour, Robert looked at his watch. Mommy, it's getting late. We should take you to the terminal. I had travelled 12 hours. I had been with them for 2 hours, and they were sending me back. So soon? It's just that Valerie needs to rest before her family arrives. I nodded. We paid the bill. We left the coffee shop. Robert hailed a taxi, and it was there, in the back seat of that taxi on the way to the terminal, when I finally held my grandson for the first time. 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes. Valerie handed him to me with obvious reluctance, as if she were giving me something fragile that she feared I would break. I received him in my arms with trembling hands. He was so small, so perfect. He smelled like baby, like milk, like new life. His eyes were closed, his long lashes resting on his chubby cheeks, his mouth making sucking movements even while asleep. I touched his tiny hands. They were soft, warm. His fingers curled around my index finger instinctively. My grandson. My Matthew. Tears welled up, but I held them back. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me weak. I kissed his forehead gently. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "I'm your grandmother Joan. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, but I love you. I love you so much." The taxi arrived at the terminal too quickly. Valerie reached out her arms. "We're here." I looked at Matthew one last time. I tried to memorize everything: the shape of his nose, the color of his skin, the weight of his little body in my arms. And I gave him back. Robert got out with me. He took my suitcase out of the taxi. "Thanks for coming, Mummy." "Of course, son." He hugged me. It was a quick, uncomfortable hug. "Take care on the road. Yes, I'll call you soon when you can." He got back into the taxi. Before closing the door, he looked at me. "Mummy, really, thanks for understanding." I didn't answer. The taxi drove off. I watched it get further and further away until it disappeared into the traffic. I was left standing there at the entrance of the terminal, with my suitcase at my feet, feeling the world crumble around me. 12 hours there. 2 hours of visiting. 5 minutes with my grandson. 12 hours back. And a pain in my chest that was physical, real, as if someone had opened my chest and ripped out something vital. I went inside the terminal. I bought a bottle of water that I didn't drink. I sat on a plastic bench to wait for my bus. I took out my phone. I opened Facebook. Valerie had already posted a photo. It was from breakfast at the coffee shop. Robert and her smiling. Matthew asleep between them. The caption read, "Perfect morning with my loves." I wasn't in the photo. It was as if I hadn't been there, as if my presence hadn't mattered, as if I didn't exist. And it was in that moment, sitting in that noisy, crowded terminal, when I finally understood it. They didn't want me in their lives. Valerie was never going to accept me. And Robert had chosen. He had chosen to shut me out. The bus arrived. I got on. I found my seat. I sat by the window. Throughout the entire return trip, I didn't cry. I didn't look out the window. I just took out that old photo of Robert, the one of him when he was 5 years old and hugging me in the park. I looked at it for hours, and I tried to remember when everything had changed, when that child who needed me had become a man who saw me as a problem, when his love had been replaced by obligation, when I had stopped mattering. I arrived in San Antonio at dawn. The sun was just beginning to rise. I took a taxi to my house. When I walked in, everything was exactly as I had left it. Silent, empty. I left my suitcase on the floor. I hung my leather purse on the door hook and sat down at my kitchen table. The same table where Robert and I had shared so many meals, so many conversations, so many moments. I made myself a coffee even though I wasn't hungry. I just needed to do something with my hands. And it was there, sitting in that familiar kitchen, drinking bitter coffee, when my life changed forever. My phone rang. Unknown number, New York City. For a second, my heart leaped. Maybe it's Robert. Maybe he regretted it. Maybe he's going to apologize. I answered. Hello? Mrs. Joan Baker? It wasn't my son's voice. It was a woman's voice. Professional. Cold. Yes, that's me. Good morning, Ma'am. I'm calling from St. Anne's Hospital, Billing and Collections Department. My blood ran cold. Yes, we have an outstanding balance on Mrs. Valerie Torres Baker's delivery account, your daughter-in-law. I closed my eyes. The health insurance covered most of the costs, but there is a remaining balance of $10,000 for the private room, special medications, and some additional procedures performed during the delivery. $10,000. Your son, Mr. Robert Baker, provided us with your number as an emergency contact for payment issues. Emergency contact. For payment issues. He hadn't called me in 3 weeks. He hadn't let me be present when my grandson was born. He had given me 2 hours to visit, 5 minutes holding Matthew, but he had given my number to the hospital so I could pay their debts. Mrs. Baker, are you listening to me? My heart was beating slowly, very slowly. I thought of everything. The years cleaning floors in the pre-dawn hours to pay for his college, the sleepless nights when he was sick, the business I sold so he could continue his studies. Every sacrifice, every tear, every moment I put his well-being before mine. I thought about how he had treated me, how he had pushed me away, how he had humiliated me over and over again. And I thought about this last humiliation, giving my number to the hospital, as if I were an ATM, as if my only value were financial. Mum, can you make the deposit this week? I took a deep breath, a very deep breath, and I felt something inside me finally break. Not toward pain, toward clarity, toward liberation. Ma'am, we need a response. If we can't resolve this soon, we will have to initiate legal action that could affect your son's credit history. My voice came out calm when I spoke. Calmer than I felt, but firm, clear, final. I don't have family there. There was silence on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, I don't have family in New York City. But ma'am, our records clearly state that you are the mother of the patient, Robert Baker, and that there is a mistake in your records. Ma'am, there can't be a mistake. Your son personally gave us your information as a contact. My son, I interrupted with a voice I didn't recognize as my own, is mistaken. I don't have a son named Robert Baker. I don't have family in New York City. I have no relationship with the account you are collecting. But ma'am, good day. And I hung up. I placed the phone on the table. My hands were shaking violently. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. But for the first time in years, I felt something I had forgotten existed. I felt power. I felt control. I felt that I had recovered something of myself, because for the first time in my life, I had said no to my son. And the sky didn't fall. The world didn't end. I was still here, breathing, existing, choosing myself. 3 days passed before Robert reacted. 3 days of absolute silence during which my phone didn't ring once. I also didn't turn it on after that call from the hospital. I left it on the kitchen table, turned off, as a reminder of the decision I had made. Rose came to visit me on the second day. Did you talk to Robert? No. Is he going to call? Probably. When the hospital tells him I'm not going to pay. And what are you going to do when he calls? I don't know. But I did know. I just didn't want to say it out loud yet. On the third day, I turned on my phone. 27 missed calls. All from Robert. 15 text messages, escalating from urgency to desperation to rage. First message. Mum, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Call me, please. Third message. Mum, the hospital says you're not going to pay. What's going on? Call me. Seventh message. Mum, this is serious. I need you to call me now. 10th message. I can't believe you're doing this. Call me. Final message. Valerie was right about you. You were always like this. Selfish. Selfish. I read that word over and over again. The woman who had worked double shifts for years. The one who sold her dead husband's business to pay for college. The one who cleaned floors smelling of bleach so her son could have a better future. Selfish. There were also 2 voicemails. I listened to them. The first was pure urgency. Mum, please call me. The hospital is pressuring us. We need that money. I don't understand why you told them you don't have family here. What does that mean? Call me, please. The second was different. Colder. You know what, Mum? It doesn't matter. We'll figure out how to pay. But I want you to know that this says a lot about you. After everything we've been through. After everything. I can't believe you're doing this to us when we need you most. Valerie was right. You've always been manipulative. You've always wanted to control me with your money. Well, it doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't. I put the phone away. I didn't call back. For the next week, Robert kept calling, less frequently, but he kept calling. I didn't answer any calls until an email arrived. Subject: We need to talk. I opened it. I read it slowly. Mum, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why you won't answer my calls. I don't understand why you told the hospital you don't have family here. Do you know what that did to us? Valerie cried. She cried because she felt humiliated when the hospital called her directly to collect the payment. We just had a baby. We're trying to adjust to this new life, and you do this to us. Dad always said that family supports each other in difficult times, that you can count on family. I always supported you when you needed it. When Dad died, I was there. When you had problems, I listened. When you needed something, I helped you. Now that I need help, this is how you respond? I don't know what we did to deserve this. Valerie just wanted some space after the delivery. It's normal. Every woman needs it. And you take it as a personal attack. The hospital is threatening us with legal action. It could affect our credit. All because you decided to play the victim and say you don't have family. I hope you reconsider. I hope you think about Matthew, your grandson. That this isn't about you or me. It's about him. If you don't want to support us, that's fine. But at least have the decency to tell me to my face instead of ignoring me. Robert. I read the email 3 times. Every word was designed to blame me, to make me feel selfish, bad, wrong, and it worked. For a few minutes, it worked. You're right, I thought. He's going through a difficult time. He just became a father. He needs help. Maybe I was too harsh, I thought. Maybe I exaggerated. I should call him, apologize, fix this, I thought. But then I reread one part. I always supported you when you needed it. When? When had he supported me? When his father died? I was the one who comforted him. I was the one who held this family together. I was the one who sold the business and worked until exhaustion so he could continue his studies. Where was his support in the last 2 years? When I felt alone, when I missed him, when I just needed to hear his voice. Where was he when I was excluded from the birth of my grandson? Where was he when I was given 2 hours to visit after 12 hours of travel? Where was he when Valerie treated me like a stranger? There was no support, just excuses. And now, when I finally set a boundary, I was the bad guy. I replied to the email. I wrote and deleted the message 100 times. I wanted to yell at him, explain. make him see how much he had hurt me. But in the end, I wrote this. Robert, you are right about one thing. Your father always said that family supports each other, but he also said that family respects each other, that family takes care of each other, that family doesn't push you away when you are needed most. For months, I asked to be close. I asked to meet my grandson. I asked to be part of your life. And you told me I was invasive, that I was a problem, that you needed peace in your house. I traveled 12 hours to meet Matthew. You gave me 2 hours. You let me hold him for 5 minutes, and then you sent me back as if I were a bother. You never called me when he was born. I found out on Facebook. You never included me in anything, only when you needed money. I am not paying that bill, Robert. Not because I don't love you, not because I don't care about Matthew, but because I cannot continue to allow you to treat me as if I only matter when it suits you. I am your mother. I deserve respect. I deserve to be present. I deserve more than being an emergency contact for collections. I hope you find a way to resolve your situation. I really do. But it won't be at the expense of my dignity. If you ever decide that you want to have a real relationship with me, one where I matter too, I will be here. Until then, I wish you the best. Mum. I sent the email before I could regret it, and then I shut down my computer. The response arrived 2 hours later. I didn't read it until the next day. I can't believe you're so selfish. Valerie was right about you from the beginning. Goodbye. That was all. No reflection, no attempt to understand, no apology. Just Valerie was right. And goodbye. Weeks turned into months. Robert didn't call again. He didn't write again. I didn't look for him either. At first, it was difficult. There were days when I picked up the phone and almost dialed his number. Days when I wondered if I had done the right thing. But Rose kept me steady. Joan, you didn't do anything wrong. You set a boundary. That doesn't make you a bad mother. It makes you a woman with dignity. But he's my son. And you're his mother, a mother who deserves respect. Little by little, I learned to live with the silence. I stopped checking Facebook. I stopped looking for updates about Matthew. I stopped torturing myself by watching a life from which I had been excluded. I focused on me. I resumed activities I had abandoned. The knitting classes, morning walks, afternoons with Rose. I started reading again. Books I liked. Stories that made me forget for a few hours. And slowly, very slowly, I began to feel something like peace. It wasn't happiness. Not yet. But it was peace, and it was enough. 6 months after the last time I spoke with Robert, Rose asked me a question. Do you regret it? I thought about it. I really thought. No, I finally said. I don't regret it. Why not? Because for the first time in my life, I chose myself. And that's worth more than any relationship where I have to beg for love. Rose smiled. There's my Joan. But life has strange ways of surprising you. Just when I was starting to feel like I could breathe again, that I could live without that constant weight on my chest, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. New York City. This time I didn't hesitate to answer. I was no longer afraid. Hello? Mrs. Joan Baker? Yes. Good afternoon. This is Samantha Riley. I'm a social worker from City General Hospital. City General Hospital, not St. Anne's. Yes. Don't be alarmed, Mum. Your daughter-in-law, Valerie Torres, was admitted to the emergency room 2 days ago. She had a severe nervous breakdown. She is stable now, but we need to contact a close family member who can temporarily care for the baby. The world stopped. The baby? Yes, Matthew. He's 1.5 years old. Your son is with her at the hospital. but he can't take care of the child and be present for his wife at the same time. He gave us your contact as a second family option. Second option, not even the first. Is my son there? Yes, Mum. Would you like me to connect you? No. The word came out automatically. I understand. Ma'am, we urgently need someone to pick up the child. He's at a temporary daycare facility run by the Child Services Agency, but they can only keep him until tomorrow morning. After that, we would have to contact other agencies. I closed my eyes. 1.5 years without talking to Robert. 1.5 years without seeing my grandson. 1.5 years building my peace. And now this. Mrs. Baker, what happened to Valerie? According to the report, it was a collapse due to accumulated stress, severe anxiety, untreated postpartum depression. She needs rest and psychiatric treatment. And my son? He's with her, but the situation is complicated. Apparently, he lost his job a few months ago. They've been having financial difficulties. They are living with her in-laws, but the situation is tense. Everything was falling apart for them, and I was the last option. Ma'am, I need an answer. Can you come for the child? I thought of Matthew, a 1.5-year-old child who was not at fault for anything, who hadn't asked to be born in the middle of this chaos. I thought of Robert, how he had treated me, how he had pushed me away, how he only sought me out when he needed something. I thought of myself, the year it had taken me to recover, the peace I had finally found, and I made a decision. I'm on my way, because he was my grandson, and this time, I was coming on my own terms. I took the bus that same night, 12 more hours of travel. But this time it was different. I wasn't begging. I was coming because they needed me. I arrived at City General Hospital at dawn. Robert was in the waiting room. He looked destroyed, emaciated, with deep circles under his eyes, his clothes wrinkled. When he saw me, he broke down. Mom! He hugged me and cried like a child. I didn't say anything. I just held him. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You were right about everything. Where is Matthew? At the daycare, 2 blocks away. Let's go. On the way, he told me everything. How he lost his job in Boston. How they moved back in with Valerie's parents. How Valerie fell into depression. How everything went to hell. I treated you badly, Mum. I pushed you away. I made you feel invisible. And now I understand everything. We arrived at the daycare. Matthew was playing with a toy car. When he saw me, he looked at me curiously. Hello, Matthew. I'm your grandmother, Joan. I approached slowly. He gave me a small, shy hug. And something inside me healed a little. The following months, I took care of Matthew while Valerie recovered, and Robert worked at whatever he could find. I lived in their small apartment. I cooked. I cleaned. I raised my grandson. Valerie left the hospital 2 weeks later. When she saw me, she cried. Forgive me. I was so scared. Scared of not being good enough. Scared that you would judge me like my mother always judged me. And I hurt you. It's over now. It's not over. But I want to fix it. If you give me a chance. I gave her a chance. It wasn't easy. There were difficult conversations, tears, boundaries that I set and that they respected. But slowly we built something new. Not perfect, but real. Robert learned that a marriage is not built by pushing your family away. Valerie learned that her fears almost destroyed everything. And I learned that my value didn't depend on how much they needed me, but on how much they respected me. Life has strange ways of dispensing justice. Robert, who pushed me away thinking he was building a perfect marriage, almost lost everything. He lost his job, his home, his pride. And in the process, he learned that pushing away those who love you unconditionally only leaves you lonelier. Valerie, who saw me as a threat, collapsed under the weight of her own pride. She discovered that being perfect was not possible, that she needed help, and that the help she rejected was the help she needed the most. And I, who was treated as invisible, became the one who held them up when everything fell apart, not for revenge, by choice. The following years changed everything. Robert got a stable job. Valerie continued therapy. I visited more often, but always respecting boundaries. Matthew grew up knowing he had a grandmother who loved him, but who also respected herself. One day, Valerie told me, "My mother was never affectionate. I swore no one would hurt Matthew the way she hurt me. But in the process, I hurt you. Thank you for not giving up on us." Robert called me on the anniversary of that day in the hospital. "Mum, that day you said I don't have family there. It destroyed me, but it also woke me up. It was the best thing you could have done." Justice did not come as revenge. It came as lessons. Life settled its debts. Robert learned that respect is earned, not demanded. Valerie learned that pride destroys. And I learned that letting go with dignity is more powerful than clinging without it. 3 years have passed. Matthew is 4½ years old. He runs toward me yelling, "Grandma Joan," every time I arrive. I no longer beg for hugs. I am no longer a second option. I am the grandmother, and that is enough. Robert and I talk every week, real conversations. Valerie and I are not best friends, but there is respect, and that is worth more than any fake hug. Last month, at Matthew's preschool show, he searched for me in the audience and smiled. He ran toward me afterward and said, "I love you, Grandma." In that moment, surrounded by other families, I felt that I belonged. Not because I begged, but because I earned that place. This morning I looked at my leather purse. I took out the old photo of Robert and a recent one. The 4 of us at the park, smiling. Both tell my story. The story of a woman who gave everything, was hurt, learned to let go, and finally found her place. If you are listening to this, I want you to know. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away from those who don't value you, even if they are family. Because loving doesn't mean enduring everything. It also means respecting yourself. For years, I thought that being a good mother meant always being available, but I learned that it is also about teaching by example, that no one, not even your own child, has the right to treat you as if you don't matter. Some endings are not happy. They are just fair. Today, at 64 years old, I am happy. Not because everything is perfect, but because my happiness doesn't depend on anyone else. I have my grandson. I have my son. I have an honest relationship. But most of all, I have myself. And that is the most valuable thing. Thank you for listening to me until the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and turn on notifications to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next time.